And it's also Co-op Month, so happy Co-op Month. Co-op Month has been celebrated since 1948. It started in Minnesota, and then was made National Co-op Month in 1964. So we've been celebrating Co-op Month, again, celebrating all different types of co-ops across the country for many years. So I lived at Joint House back in 1985 and 86, and I was elected president of the House, which made me the House representative to the board. And I was really lucky because I was on the ICC board that sold Xanadu House, which is a big old frat house on Washtenaw, and purchased what became Black Elk, Luther, and the Education Center. So being a 20-year-old kid on a board of directors, engaging in a multi-million-dollar real estate transaction was really an amazing thing for me, and helped me become confident in my career, and certainly made me want to work in co-ops of any kind for the rest of my life. And I've been very, very lucky to have been able to do that. I went to grad school, Chapel Hill, went to law school, but then after law school I came to DC. I actually worked for Senator Don Regal from Michigan, who was chairman of the banking committee at the time, and under his watch they passed the legislation that established the CDFI fund. And if y'all aren't familiar with it, that's the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, which this administration is trying to shut down, but has provided billions of dollars for community economic development since 1994, and hopefully will continue because we're fighting the fight at America's Credit Unions, where I work, to keep that fund going. So I ended up getting a job with the National Co-op Business Association, NCBA, and I was a lobbyist at first, a young legislative representative going out to the halls of Congress, talking about co-ops, and that's a pretty exciting thing for kids. Well, back then I guess I was already 30, long time, 11 years. And then worked for the National Co-op Bank, where I got to help start up the Food Co-op 500, which was an initiative to help start 500 new food co-ops across the country. That actually became its own organization, the Food Co-op Initiative, in 2010. And I now serve on the board of that organization. It's a great organization that helps start up food co-ops. And there are currently over 100 communities across the country that are starting their own food co-ops. And a lot of new ones have opened their doors over the past 20 years, in part because of this initiative, Food Co-op Initiative. So this is what I want to talk to you about today. I'm sure you all are familiar with what a co-op is, but a little primer probably couldn't hurt for some. There are basically three, I don't want to say principles because there are more principles that I'm going to go into in a second, but three basic pillars that make a co-op a co-op. And one is user ownership, so the folks that actually use the business, and co-ops are businesses, are the owners of the business. User control, the users of the business democratically control the business. And then finally, user benefit. The members of the cooperative all participate economically in that business, in the co-op, If you all aren't familiar, there are co-ops of all different kinds in many different industries, including farmer co-ops that farmers use to buy supplies for a lower cost, to sell their products, to gain market access. And some of the names that you're very familiar with in the ag world are cooperative businesses owned by their farmers. Sunkist, Ocean Spray, Organic Valley, Land O'Lakes. So whenever you see those products in the supermarket, know that the farmer owners of those cooperatives are benefiting. And then there's credit unions in the financial services area. I work for the National Association. It's called America's Credit Unions. Credit unions are a huge sector, over 140 million members. So that's a big chunk of the U.S. population that belong to credit unions. Some people belong to more than one, so that 140 million doesn't necessarily mean 140 million people, but it's pretty close. So that's a lot and a big sector of cooperatives in the country. There are also other co-op lenders. I mentioned National Co-op Bank. I also serve on the board of a revolving loan fund that's owned as a cooperative. It's called Shared Capital Cooperative. It's now over $25 million in assets, so it's a pretty sizable fund. And then there are, in the healthcare area, there are health insurance cooperatives that are owned by their consumers. Some are jointly owned by consumers and the doctors. And there's also worker-owned home care cooperatives. This is a growing sector in the country. These are home care workers that have organized and own their own businesses, so they're able to provide themselves with a steady salary, steady hours, and more safe working conditions because home care is actually kind of a challenging workplace. You can imagine that. And then mutual insurance companies are organized. Some are organized as cooperatives. One that I know of, True Stage, which used to be called Keynote Mutual, is a insurance company owned by credit unions across the country. So they were able to jointly buy their insurance and even provide insurance products to members of credit unions through that credit union-owned company. Utility, there are rural electric and telecom cooperatives that actually serve over 45 million households across rural America, actually covering about 80 to 85% of the land mass in the country. Also, we have another interesting statistic. They serve, rural electric cooperatives serve 92% of persistent poverty counties in the country. So they're benefiting from owning their own utility company. And then you've got in education, you've got preschool co-ops owned by parents and homeschool co-ops also owned by parents to be able to jointly provide home care to their kids. Grocery, this is one near and dear to my heart. Retail grocery co-ops, you have PFC here in Ann Arbor, but you also have about, what is it now? I think over 450 retail grocery food co-op locations across the country and growing. A lot of new ones being formed, as I said earlier. Also community-supported agriculture co-ops owned by consumers or sometimes even farmers, like the farm stops here in Ann Arbor, to be able to jointly provide products to folks. And then housing co-ops. This is also one near and dear to all our hearts here. And there are, in New York City, you might be aware, there are a lot of market rate housing co-ops. These are where a lot of wealthy people live, and they can actually sell their share of the co-op for whatever the market will bear. So lots of multi-million-dollar cooperative apartments in New York, but also limited equity. So there are a lot of co-op apartments in New York City and across the country and a lot of other cities where you're only able to sell your share in the co-op for the value of what improvements you might have made to your apartment, and maybe some small increase per year. But it's not whatever the market will bear. So the limited equity housing co-ops are actually affordable in perpetuity, which is why they're great means for affordable home ownership. And then finally, you have group equity housing co-ops, like the student co-ops, which jointly own all the assets. Purchasing cooperatives. These are cooperatives owned by small businesses. Ace Hardware is a purchasing cooperative. The small businesses or local Main Street hardware business may be owned for profit or by a sole entrepreneur, but they belong to a purchasing cooperative across the country of other retail hardware stores, and they can jointly buy supplies and market themselves as Ace Hardware, a recognizable brand name. And so co-ops are benefiting small businesses. And then finally, worker-owned cooperatives. And this is an area where co-ops are probably growing the fastest right now. Equal Exchange Coffee is a worker-owned co-op. And there are also a lot of these home care co-ops I mentioned, and other small businesses. A lot of coffee houses, coffee shops are converting to worker ownership. And where we're seeing a lot of growth with worker-owned co-ops is small business owners who are retiring. And there are a lot of small business owners now that are reaching retirement age and looking to sell their business. If they don't have children that they want to pass their business on to, they might want to consider selling the business to their employees as a worker co-op. And there are actually tax benefits to doing that. So there are a bunch of worker co-op development organizations out there helping to channel this silver tsunami, they call it, if you've heard that term, which is a lot of these baby boomers who are now aging out of owning their businesses. They can, a lot of them can hopefully sell their businesses to the employees as worker co-ops. All right, so I've actually covered a lot of this, or some of this already, but I'm going to voluntary and open membership. So co-ops have to welcome and invite in whoever is eligible for membership. So one of the hallmarks of the ICC traditionally has been open membership, that from its early days, almost 100 years ago, co-ops didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Discriminate, that's the word. Co-ops didn't discriminate against people for whatever reasons, because they were Asian or because they were Jewish. That they had to invite in everybody, and that's one of the things that makes co-ops great. Democratic member control, another important principle. The members own the co-op, member economic participation. The members benefit by how much they use the business. So one thing I'll bring as an example, in a worker-owned cooperative, the workers start the business because they want a place of employment, and they want to be able to make the best possible salary they can make, and to have a place to practice their profession if that's it, if that's what they are, a professional. But what member economic participation means is they are able to benefit by whatever profit the business makes at the end of the year based on the amount of hours they put in that year. So it's always based on your participation. So in a consumer cooperative, you can share in the surplus based on how much you purchased from the co-op that year. Autonomy and independence. Co-ops are proud of the fact that we are not government run. We're not beholden to other corporations or other entities. We are independent. Education, training, and information. We believe in educating our members and making sure that they understand the business that they own and the what we're doing right now. They understand about the larger co-op community. Which brings us to Principle 6, cooperation among cooperatives. This is a very important principle because it speaks to the benefit that we as co-op members get by working with other types of cooperatives. Or it could be just other cooperatives in our industry. NASCO, for instance, is a great example of cooperation among cooperatives. All the student co-ops across the country work together for our mutual benefit. But also other types of cooperatives. I think ICC may work with the University of Michigan Credit Union on some things. Perfect example of cooperation among cooperatives. And then finally, concern for community. This is the principle that speaks to the fact that co-ops give back to their community and are an important part of their community. One principle that's not up here, it's not an official principle, but it's an important one. The National Co-op Business Association added the 8th principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's certainly an important principle that we all, as co-ops, honor as an important part of what it means to be a co-op. So just to give you an idea of the size of the co-op sector in the U.S., there are more than 30,000 co-ops, which includes 4,300 credit unions. That's around 350 million memberships, including, as I mentioned earlier, 140 million memberships in credit unions. Co-ops account for 2 million jobs and $660 billion in revenue. There are about 2 million farmers that belong to co-ops, like the ones I mentioned earlier. They account for almost 40% of all farm output. There are more than 900 electric co-ops across rural America. They serve 42 million people in 47 states, including 92% persistent poverty counties. And about 6,400 housing co-ops that provide 1.2 million homes for their residents. So the rest of my slides actually have to do with my organization, America's Credit Unions. I'm not going to go into great detail because as I think my time is getting a little short here. But just to let you know, America's Credit Unions, our mission is to advocate for an advanced environment where credit unions thrive. So we are a trade association owned by credit unions. We work closely with state associations across the country that credit unions belong to, and we work primarily in advocacy. So the CDFI fund, which I mentioned earlier, we're right now fighting the battle to keep the CDFI fund going and active. We successfully fought a battle this past year with Congress, or in Congress, to maintain the tax status of credit unions. Credit unions actually are very fortunate to be tax exempt. And that means they're like a nonprofit. They roll back any surplus they make at the end of the year back into the credit union. Although actually there are a number of credit unions that distribute patronage refunds. They're able to do this on a tax-exempt basis. So that is where they would be able to distribute some of their surplus back to the members in terms of dividend checks based on their use of the co-op or use of the credit union during the year, whatever loans they might have. So, anyway, that's credit unions. We'll talk a little bit about the credit union onion here. So, the members are at the center of everything credit unions do. And credit unions often belong to local chapters where they're able to share ideas and participate in education programs. They belong to state associations, which are often called leagues. And they belong to America's Credit Unions, that's my national association. And then finally, there is a World Council of Credit Unions, which is a global organization that credit union systems across the world belong to in order to advocate for things in front of international regulatory bodies, and also help develop new credit unions. Okay, I think I'm not going to go through this. You know the difference between credit unions and banks, I think. Just wanted to talk about these next two slides a little bit. I wanted to emphasize in my remarks today about telling our story. That we have we're so lucky to have been a part of co-ops, and we know the benefit that they provide to us. Of course, we want to share that. We want more people to benefit from co-ops. And we also want to make sure that policymakers understand the benefits of co-ops to their communities, so that we can make sure that the operating environment, legislation that's passed, benefits co-ops, or at least doesn't harm us. So credit unions tell a story that looks a little bit like this in visual form. We deliver $37.1 billion in financial benefits to consumers. And that's through higher savings rates, through lower interest rates on loans, and also a little bit from fewer and lower fees that we charge. Credit unions are much better about that than banks, generally. But the last one is the most interesting, the indirect non-member benefits. Because credit unions are in the market for financial services, banks have to compete with credit unions. And therefore, banks have to charge better rates to their customers because credit unions are there. And then a little chart here about opening branches. You might be aware that banks are closing branches in a lot of communities, creating what some are calling banking deserts, where a lot of low-income communities have no bank in the neighborhood. And over the last, 11 or so years, or 12 years here, banks have been closing branches while credit unions have been opening branches. So this is another testament to why the nonprofit member-owned business is better for their communities, because they understand the importance of serving their members and are in it for the benefit of their members, not to just get a financial gain off of their customers like banks are. So if you are curious about America's credit unions, this is a number of ways to kind of stay up to date on what we're doing on social media. And that's me. So if anyone has any questions you want to ask that I or maybe someone else can help answer, happy to do that. Oh, anyone? Yeah, Susan.
Okay, wait.
Thank you.
We, our office used to be right next door to U Credit Union. It moved, there's something else going on now. But I noticed over the years that they, like in October, they don't do any promotion. They don't have anything, they have screens, you know, at credit union. And that's true for the credit union on Jackson Road. It's the extension of that credit union there. And so, what is being done to educate credit unions about their cooperative connections? Like the student housing co-ops or the education co-ops or all the co-ops that you outlined, because they don't seem, no one ever talks about the credit union as a co-op to me as a consumer. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you know, there have been a lot of efforts by some folks in the credit union movement to really emphasize their co-op identity. And actually, when co-ops were up in Congress talking about how we're different from banks and we need to maintain our tax status, they would talk a lot about the fact that credit unions are cooperatives. But you know, credit unions, a lot of them have gotten very big, which is a good thing. They need to serve more people, and have hired a lot of people to run credit unions from the banking sector, because they understand financial services. So there is a cultural issue in the credit union movement about understanding what it means to be a co-op and understanding cooperation among cooperatives. But there are a lot of folks that do get it. There's actually a program that the National Credit Union Foundation runs called Development Education. And it's a very popular program, probably about, I think, 300 or 400 credit union professionals go through this program every year. And they learn about what they call credit union philosophy. They call it the philosophy of credit unions. And that's all about, you know, credit unions as co-ops and how we're part of this larger sector. So a lot of credit union professionals do get that training and do understand that, but you know, it's tough to go against the tide, and we're in a capitalist system that doesn't get co-ops. So it's sometimes hard to educate people about it. Lisa, hey.
One thing that when I was doing some research, I'm an environmental and sustainability professional, of course, care about it deeply in my own personal lives, as I'm sure many of you do as well. In my research, I found that credit unions do not invest in things like oil and gas, and that was very compelling to me, that to have as your bank, a credit union, instead of a regular bank that might invest in fossil fuels and other things that environmental and social impact. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, so for-profit businesses in a capitalist economy are ultimately their only purpose is to make a profit. And you know, I mean, I guess that's fine for what it is. But that, you know, if a for-profit business isn't making a profit, then they're doing something wrong, and their shareholders, their owners, are going to be pissed. Whereas co-ops are built differently. You know, co-ops are built for the benefit of their members. That doesn't mean they always act perfectly or according to their mission, but they are structured in such a way that they should be operating just for the benefit of their members. And that, of course, includes preservation of the planet and preservation of democracy, and you know, ensuring that there is sustainability for all of us. Mark.
Thank you for taking my question. You mentioned there's quite a few bank closures. you seeing credit unions opening in areas where banks are vacating, like in low income? Is there a response from credit unions at large to go into neighborhoods where community members are traditionally, historically unbanked or underbanked? Is that one of the premises of credit union growth strategies looking at?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that there's like a grand strategy to do that, because that really would be, unfortunately, giving them a little more credit than I even like to give them. But there are a lot of credit unions out there that are indeed buying up some of these branches that banks are vacating and are moving into communities that might not be attractive to a bank, but that the credit union wants to serve.
That then does beg the next question. I hate to be importunate here, but would then credit unions opening in some of these challenged areas, on what do they premise membership requirements? After all, if you're a student, that's the membership requirement. I work for the city of Detroit, that means a certain membership requirement for some credit unions. But if I live in Von Steuben on the east side, must that be is that all that's required before 205?
Yeah. So credit unions do have to have a field of membership in their charter, which means they either serve employees of a certain business or people in a certain community, and that can be geographical. And increasingly, credit unions do serve geographical communities. And the regulator, the National Credit Union Administration, will provide a special dispensation to credit unions that want to serve a low-income housing or a low-income census tract. So there are incentives in place to help credit unions serve areas that are underserved.
Actually, I just wanted to add something to that. So I live in Highland Park, which is a small city surrounded by Detroit. There are no banks in Highland Park. Even though one of the first branches of Comerica before it was just the Merchants Bank was started in Highland Park. But they're not there anymore. And there is one credit union. It's a community development credit union.
Is it one Detroit?
It is one Detroit. It came from the union, like the printers union. But when they expanded their field of membership, they changed the name to One Detroit. But ironically, One Detroit is the only financial organization in Highland Park. I'm a member. I decided I'd better join if I could have a branch in town.
Good to hear that. Yeah, there are a lot of credit unions that are specifically community development credit unions. They actually have their own association called Inclusive. And they also belong to our association. But there are also many credit unions, especially the larger ones, that aren't specifically, their mission isn't specifically community development. So that's why you might see some credit unions that are engaged in, you might think, some questionable practices. I guarantee you, those would not be the community development credit unions like One Detroit that are specifically, their mission is to serve underserved communities. Yeah.
When the Ann Arbor News gave up its large office building some years ago, the University of Michigan Credit Union bought it, apparently, or took control of it in some way. And I was surprised that the credit union can do that. And I asked if the manager of the charter of this credit union provided for that kind of action by the credit union, and they said yes. I wonder whether the main limitations on the charters of credit unions are established by states or by the federal government.
So there are actually about 60% of credit unions are federally chartered, and about 40% of credit unions are state chartered. And most states allow for a credit union charter. And the regulations can be very different across states and the federal regulations. But there has been a movement, I would say, because of associations like mine over the past several decades to be much more liberal in allowing credit unions to do things that they didn't traditionally used to be able to do. So, Neil?
Yeah, thank you. That was a great talk. So electricity credit unions serve a lot of underserved communities with not only power in general, but power that's greener and cheaper than other utilities. So how can, say, an area like Ann Arbor go towards that model instead of the dirty, greedy company we have now that shall be nameless?
So you're talking about, utility cooperatives. Like any co-op, it takes people power. It takes people coming together in community and forming the business. There generally aren't utility cooperatives that serve urban areas because there was a push back in the New Deal to create co-ops specifically to serve rural areas. And so there was federal support. There was a lot of money put into helping rural electrification, as they called it at that time. But in terms of like city areas like Ann Arbor, there's no limit to what people can do if they put their mind to it. And certainly, co-ops are a great way to go. I know that they're also, in the utility world, there's also a lot of municipally owned utilities. And so if you don't have what it takes necessarily to form a co-op, you can maybe get the city to form a utility, and that's happened in a number of places. Yeah.
All right, I'm making a stop. Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to respond to that. I just happen to know, I used to lead the career office at UM School for Environment and Sustainability. One of our alums is now Executive Director of Sustainable Energy Utility for City of Ann Arbor. That's a city-owned entity that's going 100% renewable. So, FYI.
Nice.
So thank you, that's a great lead-in. So there is actually a movement in Ann Arbor to municipalize. I think that there was first a referendum to do this SEU, and it's actually in the law that is how cities are chartered in Michigan, allows cities to have their own utility if they don't connect to the grid. So the goal with the SEU is to create a series of microgrids around the city that can eventually be connected up and supply all of the power without, and we can just cut DTE off. I'll name them. And one of the first things I did when I started at ICC was to sign up for the email list for SEU. There was a referendum that passed 70-30 citywide to go ahead and launch it. And we have put forward our locations to be parts of those microgrids, and hopefully that'll happen at some stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rich. That was really informative. I assume that people here in this room could come talk to you about internships if they're interested, right? Okay, great. So that's the end of our formal piece of this. We have a wonderful merchandise table over here, so I encourage everyone to come and go and visit that. There's also the wonderful ICC history. Don't forget to write down your memories and put them in that bowl over there. And also I'd like Susan Kaya to stand for a moment here. longest now employee in ICC history, right? And we were partners in crime on organizing this event. So, Susan, thank you for all of your hard work. We appreciate it. I encourage everyone to get up and mix and mingle. I'd love to chat with people from other tables. We can all do that. There's a lot of current Vail House members in the room. Shout out to Vail. Vail represents. So if you'd like to go say hi, I'm sure they'd love to talk to you about Vail, past and present. So enjoy yourselves, mix and mingle.